Hey, today we're going to take a look at an alternating bass in the key of C. So thus far we've looked at the root strum idea. Let's just briefly review root strum. Root strum is essentially root, or the naming note of the chord, root and then strum. Root, strum, root, strum, root, strum. It starts to, imply something happening in the bass, right? Root, strum, root, strum, root, strum, root, strum. Okay. But now we're going to step a little bit further and go to alternate bass. Now, remembering that when we call it a root, it's the actual naming note of the chord. So when we call it alternating bass, that means it's a lower note that may lower notes that may include the root of the chord. Now, if we look at this in the key of C, for instance, the C major chord has the notes C, E, and G. Here I have G on the third string, but I've also got G down here on the sixth string. So that G is also in the C chord. Some people play the G chord like this, with the C in the lowest voice, right? So let's first of all look at alternating bass root 5 with this alternating bass in the lowest voice, right? Same as the root strum idea, except now we're alternating, between a root and the fifth. If we didn't take the fifth down, to the lower octave, we'd get this, and that just really doesn't sound like a bass line, right? But this does sound like a bass line. All right, so that's C, G, C, G, C. We can also use the third of the chord as an alternate in the bass line, and the third of the chord is C, D, E. It's already underneath our fingers in the C chord. So you can alternate between the two of them now. E, G. And you're already beginning to create a little bit more interest here, right? So that's alternating first, third, first, low, fifth. Now if we go to the 4 chord and the 5 chord in the key of C, 4 chord in the key of C being C, D, E, F, 5 chord in the key of C being C, D, E, F, G, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, G chord, back to the C chord. We can do the same thing with each chord. Now let's take a look at the F chord as an example first. We have, this is getting a little higher, right? There's our low fifth though. If we take it to the alternating third, so that works well. It gets a little high when you get up to that third string. It starts to sound like not really a bass line to me. But if we were to move down to the full bar chord, that may feel still uncomfortable for you, but you could do that, in which case you would have root 5, root 5, root 5 above now. So that gives you a couple of different possibilities between the F chord, this little one, and this big one, 6-note F chord. And then, of course, the G chord, same thing applies. We're not going to, because we're using the root as on the bottom string, you're not going to get a fifth below that, but you are going to get a third above, and a fifth above. And the way you develop the line is completely up to you. You could go root, third, root, fifth, root, third, root, fifth. Or you could go root, 5, root, third, back the other way. It really depends on you. Now, if we put that in the context of a 1-4-5 chord progression, you can start to hear lines building up. You heard that note leading to the F, right? Get the idea. So the best thing to do is to take each chord and just work through the alternating basses one chord at a time. Naturally, the same thing will apply to every open position chord. You'll have in every major chord, in every minor chord, you're going to have a root, a fifth, and a third. And depending on where those roots and fifths and thirds are, how the chord is voiced, you'll be able to develop alternating bass lines that are to a degree individual to each chord. So have fun with this 1-4-5 chord progression in the key of C major. Take the chords one at a time and work through that, remembering that you're playing the 1, the 3, and the 5. The 5 can be lower, below the root.